All right, so conditional statements are basically a set of instructions that we can tell our program or our computer to do something depending on basically the state of the world. Conditional statements are what we call a kind of control flow. We're trying to control the flow of our program depending on certain conditions. All right. So when we think about these conditional statements, they typically always start with some question, right? Some question of is there a certain state that is met? And if that state is met, then we want to do one thing. And we could even say if it's not met, we're going to do one or more other things, right? So for example, say we just want to ask, are you tired, right? If you're tired, be yes, then do something, go to bed. If you're not tired, then do not go to bed, okay? So within programs, within a language such as Python, conditional statements usually take the form of if-then statements, right? If you are something or if something exists, then do this. But we can also have what we call else statements. And these else statements allow us to do some alternative procedure if the initial condition is not true, right? So let's go ahead and see what this looks like. Okay, say we have some level of tiredness, or let's just say we have whether the fact we are tired or not. So let's go ahead, I'm going to put in yes, I am tired here. Now, say I want to control the operation of what happens in my program based off of this condition, whether or not I am tired. So the first thing I do is I ask the conditional statement, right? If tired equals something, in this case, if tired equals yes, then I'm going to go ahead and we'll print go to bed. Okay, so now because I am tired, because tired equals yes, so because this condition is true, right, I can go execute this line of code. Now I could actually have multiple lines in here. Like for example, say I want to say print go to bed, print because I am very tired. Oops. Right, so now I could execute that and it executes both lines of code. And I could actually make this as long as I want, right? The thing being here is this is all controlled by these indentations, right? So the second I exit out of those indentations, and let's say I do some other computation, such as assign a equals 2 plus 2, a, right? You can see now I have this other execution going on. And this is regardless if I am tired or not, right? So let's say I'm actually not tired. So because I'm not tired, these lines of code that are indented within my if statement, right? Because this is false, these should not be ran. And let me run this. There we go. And because I am in fact not tired, we see they don't run. And the only thing that runs is what's outside of that indentation. Okay, so let's back up here and let's simplify this. And most of the time when we check on a condition, we want basically one of two things to happen. We want something to execute if it is true and something else to execute if it is false. So I can do this within my program here is I can follow up this if statement with an else statement, right? So now I could say print do not go to bed. So now when I run this, we can see I am tired, therefore this condition does not hold, so I do not execute this line. But else, right, everything, or I want to do something if that condition does not hold, if I am not tired, and that is to print out this statement, and that happens. Right, so now you can see regardless of what the value is for this variable, I'm going to get one of two things to be executed. Now sometimes we have more than two things, right? Let's say that tired could take on the values of levels of tiredness, right? Basically, low, medium, or high, right? So I could say level of tiredness. Okay. So now what I could say is I want 3 things to happen depending on this level of tiredness. All right, so if level of tiredness is, let's say, high, I'm going to say go to bed. However, if level of tiredness equals, let's say, medium, then I want to do something else. I want to say print will go ahead and read a book. Else exercise. Okay, so basically what my statement here is doing is it's saying, hey, look, if you're really tired, we want to do one thing. If we have a medium level of tiredness, we're going to do another thing. And if it's not one of these two, right, anything else, we can go ahead and print off this, right? So let me go ahead. I'm going to say level of tiredness is high. And what results is, it says go to bed, all right? What if it is medium? I can execute that, and it's going to execute this line, right? Read a book. And if I say low, it prints out this last one. Now we can extend this however long we want, right? Let's say level of tiredness, and I just have something ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. It's still going to execute that last line of code. So what we could do is we could extend this even more and say elif level of tiredness equals low, print go exercise, else, right, not a valid input. Okay, so now we've extended this. We've got basically 3 conditions we're checking for, and for anything else, we're going to print out that last one, right? So now do that, and because this is not one of these valid inputs that I'm looking for, I'm just going to print out not valid input. Or I could have low, go exercise, medium, read a book, and high, go to bed. All right. So that's kind of the basics of our conditional statement. So let's go ahead. We're going to use that to actually answer this question down here, which is a knowledge check. And the idea here is we want to import, first of all, random. This is like a standard library, and we can use that to randomly generate a number. So if I go ahead, let's run this in actually a different code chunk. And we'll see what is x actually. So x is 31 in this case, right? So here's what I want to do. I want to actually fill this in so that my conditional statements and my conditional statement construct follows these procedures. So the first one is we want to check to see if x is greater than 50. If so, we want to print this off. So I'm going to go ahead and say if x is greater than 50, we want that to execute. Now, if not, the next thing is if x is less than 50 but still positive, we want to print this off. Okay, so I could do elif. Now, there's multiple different ways we could actually approach this. I'm going to go ahead and say if x is less than 50 and x is greater than 0, then it is still, well, it'll execute this. And then for anything else, it's going to print off negative. See if this works. And it does. So x is 31 we see here. So x is less than 50 but still positive, right? So let's go ahead. I'm going to change this seed here. And I can re-execute this for a different x. So in this case, it's 63. And here we see we get x is greater than 50. Let's see if I can find, actually we'll do this, we'll turn this into a negative number. All right, so now we have -7. And so in this case, we should get x is negative as expected. Now, so there's another thing. The second part of the question is, can you think of another way to write this conditional statement? There's many different ways we could actually construct this. We could have a nested statement, right? So you could say if x is greater than 50, then do that. And then I could follow this up by saying else. And then within here, I could say if x is less than 50 and greater than 100, do that, else do this, and this will still work, right? This is just a nested form. Personally, I do not like nested ones or nested if-else statements. When possible, try to get it so that it's more of a flat construct like we did here. But that's just another way you could write that. You could also write this in a couple different ways. You could say greater than 0 and x is less than 50, right? So there's different ways you could actually order some of these procedures and still get the same result.